Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got some Black Ops Cold War Alpha gameplay for you and a discussion about what I'm expecting in the upcoming beta. So as you all know, the Black Ops Cold War Alpha did not have the best community reaction. As a matter of fact, it was received quite poorly and considered in many ways to be inferior to Modern Warfare 2019. Even my own review of the game and personal subjective opinions were rougher than usual if you saw the videos on this channel. Treyarch once again finds themselves down and out, and they need to get back up and come out swinging in order to catch up and be as popular as Modern Warfare 2019. The Call of Duty community is hoping, or perhaps expecting, a massive change in both graphics and balance in the beta, almost a whole game overhaul, rework, redo. And that would be nice, but that's not realistic. Realistically speaking, the game's not going to change that much from alpha to beta, and not that much from beta to final release. And at least the big picture ideas and most of the models and assets of what we have are pretty much locked in place at this point. So I have my own list of different things that I want from the beta, which are primarily gameplay improvements that, despite graphical issues, will hopefully help the balance and flow and play of the game, and of course some graphical complaints as well. But we're going to get into all of that after today's sponsor, which is amazing, by the way, and you should totally watch this next bit. The year is 1984, the tanks are topped, and the shorts are short. Mullets are in, video games are blowing up, and exercise is kinda weird. This is the dawn of the internet. Back in the day, all of our nuclear launch codes were on computers just like these, and we had to hire elite teams of nerds to prevent Russians from hacking our nukes. These days, you can use nordvpn.com/drifter to protect yourself online. NordVPN can mask your IP, prevent you from being identified and/or DDoSed. It can cost as little as $3.49 per month if you use code DRIFTER at nordvpn.com/drifter, and this is 11 cents per day, which still wasn't worth anything and was basically free in 1984. If you wanted to rent a movie in the 1980s, you had to go to Blockbuster, and if they were out of something, that's just too bad. But now with nordvpn.com/drifter, you can instantly change your location to make Netflix think you're in a different country and access an entirely different catalog. You could even look at Netflix Japan if you aren't afraid of the cyber ninjas. In 1984, Chrome was the color of the future, but now it's just a browser that only takes one click with the NordVPN Chrome app to connect to any server anywhere in the world. NordVPN is fast, with over 5,000 servers in 60 different countries. Some of these countries are even former communist satellites of the USSR. It has a mobile app, which is very convenient, no data caps, no data logging, 24/7 support, and will even work in China, which is important for all those Zoom calls. The past sucked, but the future is radical, and you should help save the future by buying nordvpn.com/drifter and using code DRIFTER to save 70% while shielding your identity online. That way, when Skynet sends Terminators back to 2020, they'll never be able to find your IP address. Well, I hope you guys do check out NordVPN. It's very important to keep the 80s hackers out of your computers. And let's talk about what I want from the Black Ops Cold War beta. Number 1 and 2 are actually both graphical things, even though I said it was going to be mostly gameplay today. And let's start with number 1. That is frame rate improvements on older consoles. I'm very confident that the PlayStation 5, Xbox One X, and PC will all probably be really smooth and have high frame rates, given the amount of horsepower that those consoles have. However, the PS4 Pro that I had to play the alpha on kind of struggled. It was not the most consistent or smoothest experience, and reading from Reddit and some of my fans, the PlayStation 4 regular was considerably worse, and the same story is true of Xbox and Xbox One X. In Black Ops Cold War Alpha on PS4, I could subjectively feel some frame drops going down from 60 to somewhere around 52 to 55 by my best estimate based on my years of playing games. I unfortunately did not have all the tools like Digital Foundry has, or some of these other more technical sites that can get you the true exact numbers, but subjectively it felt a little bit choppier than what I wanted, and it most commonly chopped in gunfights and sometimes around smoke grenades, which is problematic because gunfights are the time that you want it to be chopping the least, because when it struggles and skips frames, it can screw up your aim. This does seem to affect my aim as well, which makes me wonder if it breaks the aim assist. We're actually going to talk about the aim assist relatively soon, so I don't know if these are related problems or not. The second change that I want is in the game's dynamic resolution. So right now it'll vary your resolution from, I don't know, like 720p to 1080 to 4K to whatever your system can run, or maybe it's draw distance or haziness. In most of my time playing on the PS4 Pro, it didn't really look like it was running a full 1080p. It looked more like a 900 or like 950p, and it was scaling up and down. I actually did a stream where I talked to Exclusive Ace about this, and I was kind of wanting to bring it up, but then I was like, you know, I can't really prove it, I can't really see it, and then he brought it up saying that he had the same experience, and as another very technically competent and logical person telling me that, I felt more confident to say that, yeah, mine felt a little hazy, a little blurry, things in the distance weren't quite as sharp as what I was hoping. I don't even know if it's rendering assets at different resolutions or if it's got a draw distance filter thing on or not, but I think that this needs to be improved, at least on the PS4 Pro. It's kind of sad that the PS4 Pro isn't running better than it did in the alpha. Number 3 today is some kind of changes to aim assist and dead zone. Those need some tuning, or at least additional options like Modern Warfare 2019 had. Modern Warfare had a whole bunch of different aim assist options, even some experimental ones, and lots of games have different options for dead zones on your controllers, including, matter of fact, Xbox and Xbox Elite and Astro and Battle Beaver all have custom dead zone options. Being able to adjust these is a godsend because the defaults for the game are kind of weird. Like the default dead zones and aim assist options for Black Ops Cold War weren't quite working right. I feel like the dead zones were about 50% too big, and the aim assist couldn't quite make up its mind if it wanted to help me or hurt me. And I don't know if that's an aim assist issue, I don't know if that's a dead zone scaling issue, but I thought, what if the game is being built around the PlayStation 5 and the PS5 controllers have different stick lengths or different dead zones or different like input requirements, and it's been ported down to PlayStation 4 and those don't scale 1-to-1. Overall, aiming just needs some work. Aiming didn't feel quite right. Maybe I have a PC bias now. Maybe I've played too much computer, but it just didn't feel quite right. Next up is an unnumbered one, something that I was wrong about. I've been complaining about Cavalry Barrels being too weak and doing nothing. I was actually using them wrong. They absolutely shred attack helicopters and small airstreaks really fast. They're just not very useful against the larger, heavier vehicles and the chopper gunner, but attack choppers do not stand a chance against the Cavalry Barrels. They're actually quite strong in that regard. Number 4 is I'd like to see some netcode improvements, or at least some netcode experimentation. My lag and lag compensation experience in the alpha weekend was suboptimal, to say the least. I had some normal lobbies, and I had some very good low ping lobbies that were quite fun to play in, and then I had some pretty abysmal ones. And you would say, okay, well, this is normal, you're going to get some good, some normal, and some bad, but I had a little bit more bad than what I have been experiencing in previous COD games. I had more laggy lobbies, more weird ones, more times being shot around corners, more times of bullets coming around corners before the character model even jumps around. More of that kind of stuff than I've dealt with in a Call of Duty game in a while, which was annoying, and I think that basically the lag compensation is too heavily favored for the attacker right now. Treyarch games have kind of always been this way. It needs to be scaled back in some capacity. Even minor tweaks here could be incredibly helpful. And I don't know, something needs to be done for overall stability too, because I had a lot of matches kind of pop in and out randomly for connection, and sometimes they would just drop and there would be no saving it. On that same note, another unnumbered one here, it's a good thing, I guess. Developers finally acknowledged skill-based matchmaking. One of the devs put out a tweet about it. It's one of the very few times devs even speak about this issue. As expected, the community rioted and went straight to reverse boosting and complaining on Twitter and being quite toxic, more toxic about this than pretty much anything else about the alpha. And I don't want to talk about this too much because I've got better things to do with my day than wade into an Arby's dumpster fire. But on the developer side of things, Pandora's box has been opened. It was probably opened long ago when YouTubers like Ace and I started busting the skill-based matchmaking issue, but now they're acknowledging it, and now devs have the very onerous and unenviable task of engaging in dialogue with the entire Call of Duty community to sort of figure out what they really want in terms of skill-based matchmaking. Just thinking about that makes me want to take a shower. So if anybody from Treyarch is listening, good luck with that one. That's going to be fun. Glad you have to do that and not me. Let's move on to number 5 today. I think that the rocket slides are a little bit too crazy at the moment, and these aren't slides that you slide down with rockets on them. We're talking about the knee sliding that seems to be coded kind of like an exo slide or a boost slide. So knee sliding is back in Black Ops Cold War, very similar to how it is in past games, but I think that they coded it as a Black Ops 4 boost slide or something, because you only need to take about 2 steps to slide about 10 steps really fast. This is very visible when you're playing in high school gunfights against aggressive players. Sometimes it just seems like they take a knee and then just take off scooting like they're covered in grease, or they just zip around the map and they move very oddly. I don't know exactly what's causing it, but it definitely breaks up gunfights. It's definitely extremely unrealistic and very weird. And I think that it needs to be changed either so that you have less knee sliding distance, or you need a much bigger momentum buildup in order to do it, because I think one of the problems right now is you only need a couple of steps and then you can knee slide. So you kind of like shuffle step and knee slide, and you just kind of boost around and confuse your enemies. Whatever's going on there needs a little bit of work. I still don't like the tanks. I think the tank balance needs work, and the overall tank stability glitchiness. The tanks are still incredibly strong and overall annoying in Crossroads. I've gotten a little better at killing them, but they're quite powerful. They can dominate the map. At one time, my team had 3 of them and we just murdered everybody. The tanks are also not particularly fun, even if they're dominant. They're slow, difficult to drive, insanely tanky, you know, because they're a tank, but really ridiculously powerful to shoot. And I think that tanks need to be weaker, or perhaps, but also probably a little bit more agile. We need a little bit more speed on these things if we're going to reduce the firepower. And I also think they need to be a lot less glitchy. I saw a lot of flying tanks this weekend. I saw some Team Mountain Goat videos where they were doing God only knows what with the vehicles and the tanks. It kind of brought me back to Halo, where you would put the Scorpion in the fan in Zanzibar and send it flying. It just isn't something that I want to see in the final build of the game. So I think the tanks need to be less glitchy and more stable, and still probably weaker, though the attack boats on the Armada map are just fine. I think that the minigun attack boats are in a pretty good spot when it comes to balance. They're pretty lethal, but they're also relatively easy to kill, and they can't access the entire map like a tank can. Number 7, and I think this is going to be a very important and popular one with the community, is that we need a sniper rifle nerf, or at the very least, a rebalance. As according to Twitter developers, they were insanely powerful and insanely good at quickscoping in the alpha by design. They were powerful on purpose, and they also allowed red dot attachments to be put on the snipers, which is crazy because then you don't really have a reason to run iron sights, which is also an attachment. So the developers said that they were left overly strong on purpose to see how the community would use them, how they would react, and what the data says. And devs soon after the alpha also promised that sniper rifles would get nerfs, or at least rebalances in the beta to become less annoying, and I sure hope they use that alpha data to balance them, because I found them incredibly annoying. They one-shotted me a lot, they quickscoped really fast, aimed down sights really fast, really good handling. In the alpha that I played, it was probably better to have a sniper rifle than a shotgun in most close quarters engagements. That is pending, of course, if you have the ability to aim it. But I think what snipers really need is a slower base aim down sights time, or at least, like, if you're gonna make it really fast and quickscopy, the attachments you should put on it should be in some way unfriendly to other aspects of your kit that make it in some capacity more difficult to use, because it's just way too easy right now, way too frustrating. Number 8 on my list today is I think that auto mantle should be off by default. So auto mantle is when you walk up to an object, like say a chest high wall, and you climb it automatically, which means if you're sprinting and you run into a wall, your character will automatically jump over it, which sounds like a good feature until you want to sprint to a wall and then crouch to take cover and your character flings over it. Or when you're walking backwards to creep out of a gunfight and your character's butt bumps into a truck and then you climb on top and get headshotted. There's a lot of accidental climbing. I turned this feature off pretty much instantly, but it's on by default, and I think it's kind of awkward. I think that going back to the old school of having to manually press a button to climb makes a lot more sense given the movement of this game, and I just hope that they make auto mantle off by default. Number 9 today is improvements to animations. This is a big ticket item for the Call of Duty community right now, Redditors you could say, and I think rightfully so, because the animations are clearly not of the same quality as what we had in Modern Warfare 2019 or even World War II or quite a few COD games. And I think that it's going to be hard or perhaps impossible to completely overhaul the animations. Like, we're not going to get a whole new set of animations, that can't happen, but we can get improvements. We can at least move the animations up to being kind of COD standard or industry standard ones, and I do believe that there is time to make this better. I don't think that Treyarch has the time to redo or completely fix this, but it can make it better, smoother, and at least reasonably enjoyable here near the end of development. Number 10 is another big one, and that's some score streak system experimentation. I think people want to scrap the whole system. They want to go back immediately to what they had before, and I don't disagree with them. I don't really like the new system for a whole lot of reasons that I've discussed in a whole lot of videos. And I think that the new score streak system that we have now clearly is not working as intended, and it's also not popular. And I think that in the beta, it's the absolute perfect time to test some alternative systems. We can test kill streaks, we can test classic Black Ops 2 score streaks, support stuff, or honestly, I would be happy seeing them just experiment with point modifiers to the current systems. For example, you could just change the point values of the streaks so that they're easier or harder to earn, just kind of depending on what the devs and the data says. You could add objective streaks. That's one thing that we don't have, is you don't get streaks or multipliers for capturing objectives, but if you capture 2, 3, 4, 5 flags in a row in one life, I think you should be rewarded for that. Or the score that you get for objectives should also be applied in some way to your kill modifier. So you basically, the more people you kill, the more the next kill is worth. It just has some percentage that scales up. This could also just apply to objectives, so that capturing a flag on 2 kills is worth a lot less than capturing a flag when you're on a 12 kill streak, because you have more risk out there. There's a lot of simple things you can do, a lot of tweaks to the system, maybe get something better out of it. I don't know, nobody will know until you try it, but the beta is a great time to try it. And then finally today, at number 11, I like to see a wildcard rebalance. I think the wildcards are very out of balance. Perk Greed and I think it's Cheater or Gunfighter or whatever, where you get 2 guns with no perk downsides whatsoever, is just way too strong. So Perk Greed just gives you 6 perks. And that's amazing in and of itself, especially since you have so many attachments on your primary weapons and you're not missing any grenades or anything like that. And then you have what's effectively Overkill, where you get 2 primary weapons and no real downsides. You're not losing perks, you're not losing grenades, you're not losing anything. Compared to that, getting out of category perks or getting extra grenades or anything else is practically useless. It's not that they're OP or unbalanced to the point where I can't deal with them. I don't have an issue killing people running either of those. It's just that the other 2 are comparatively useless, and I'd like to see them be more fun. Guys, that is all for my expectations from the Black Ops Cold War beta. I hope to see some of these, and I hope to see some improvements before the final game comes out in about, I don't know, 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, and check out NordVPN. Drifter out. Okay, hold up. There was actually one more thing I wanted to add to the end. Can we get the option to pet the shark? It's so hard to find the shark in the water. You have to swim way down to the bottom, and it almost kills you getting down there. I would love to be able to pet the shark, or have the shark kill me, or just have the shark moved up so that I can interact with the shark more frequently. Yeah, that's kind of it. I want more sharks, I guess. We're asking for fish AI.